Wow, we got a full house today.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome everybody to another Tuesday Live with Jen and Joe. And we are delighted to have a special guest today, the godfather of real estate himself, the guy who got me started 20 something years ago is Ron LeGrand. So completely honored to have you here. Thanks, Ron, for coming.
My pleasure, sir.
This is a long time in the making. A lot of you know that the story. I've got his course in the year 2000. A month later, I wholesaled my first deal, made a lot of money, said, oh my God, this guy's the best. And I've been following him for ever since. Even got to hang out with him a couple of times. So that's been awesome. So thank you guys once again. If you have any questions, just drop those below. Ron, we don't have too much time today, so we're going to get through these, but we have some really fun ones to get in here. So Ron, can you just do a little introduction for everybody here knows you, but maybe there's like one person who doesn't. So
What's that? You want me to talk?
yeah.
Okay. I see some familiar faces up above you there, so I'm probably not a stranger to most of your group.
No,
I see
not at
Kyle
all.
up there waving at me. All right. So what do you want me? You want to ask me some questions?
Yeah. So my favorite is, how long have you been a real estate investor for?
I'm in my 42nd year.
Wow. So some of you might not have been born yet. And so it's one of our household favorites, is the story of how did you get started? This story is like legendary, and I just love hearing it. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that story with these folks.
Well, I started with a wash machine. I was working as a mechanic and running a service station here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live, and working my butt off 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I was responsible for everything and could barely make a living. I mean, we had a mechanical business as well as a gas station, and just couldn't get anywhere. So I had to buy groceries 2 or 3 times a week because we couldn't afford just to go once a week. And I came home one night and Beverly said to me, our wash machine is broke again. I want a new one. I said, I don't have any money to buy a new one. And we argued. I went to bed mad, woke up mad at myself, woke up the next morning and made the decision that I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to find some way to make a lot more money. And I did exactly that. That was the day I made the decision. And it wasn't too far past that I saw an ad that said, come how to learn real estate with no money or credit. And I qualified for both of those. So I went down and checked it out. And guess who was the one that's speaking that night? Carlton Sheets put me into 2-day seminar sponsored and created by Bob Allen. And we've since become friends. And that 2-day seminar got me going big time, got my head going anyway. I didn't understand most of that stuff we were talking about, but I did pick up the art of wholesaling, and that's what got me my first check 3 weeks later. I just signed a contract and flipped it and got a check for $3,000. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe how easy that was. So I did quite a few of those and started rehabbing somewhere down the line. And I'm telling you, I had over 200 tenants 2 years into the business. And it was a glorious time of my life, babysitting 270 some odd tenants. Oh. And man, that about took me out. It took me about 5 years to clean that mess up that I made in the first 2 years. But I got through it and kept on going because real estate has always been good to me. I've always made money at it. I've wandered away from it many times. I never wandered all the way away from it. I just, the next shiny object come in, multi-level deals, all kinds of things come at you. And of course, the grass is always greener on the other side, which I found out totally was not true. I found out it had manure under it. So I kept going. Every year I got smarter. And then about 7 years in, I actually started teaching my local RIA stuff because they wouldn't leave me alone. Same questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? So I taped my first seminar. No, I did my first seminar. I couldn't believe it, man. I had a whole room full of people because it was free. So the next one, I put a $395 price on it, and the room shrunk, but they still came. And frankly, shortly after that, I taped my first course. Then I taped another one, and I had 7 courses stacked up like that. And I would go out and speak at places like Mark Harrelson's seminar and Bob Allen's big convention thing. And in 1995, I created the basis of the systems we have now, changed it half a dozen times since. So the company's called Global Publishing Inc., located in Jacksonville, Florida. We've been at it since 1999, however many years that is.
Bravo. And I think that's right around when I got the course that you used to run on an infomercial, on one of those late night infomercials. And
yeah, that was in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And
with Bob and Greg Rice, world's smallest living twins, 2'8". If you can just imagine that, being a human being. They were a blast, though, boy. They were a blast. And they really did real estate down in Southeast Florida. The minute I was thinking about doing a commercial, I thought of these guys, what clicker stoppers they would be. Ain't nobody going to click off of them. And I was right about that. So we run their commercial for several years.
And I remember that commercial still to this day. And it was pretty popular back in the day. So it worked. And that's how luckily I stumbled into Ron's world, just like so many other folks done. So I could imagine you've been teaching it now for 24 years. You've probably have helped thousands and thousands of people.
33 years now.
Yeah. So
time flies. Hey, I remember what John used to say when he'd take the stage. He said, "I'm Ron LeGrand after taxes." I got a kick out of that.
Oh my gosh. So I got to think, in all these years you've done, I know, a mountain load of deals. Is there ever one deal that sticks out in your head?
Single family house? No, not really, because I've done some really big rehabs. I can't think of anyone that sticks out in my head really that much, but it's hard to hit a home run with a single family house. So, I mean, it's not dollars you can sell it for in Jacksonville, Florida. But there's no one house. There's a commercial property that sticks out, and that's in Myrtle Beach. I bought 108 lots, financed, the bank financed the whole. They were already horizontally developed, and we sold off all the lots. Made a little money on that.
There's always one deal, at least. So that's awesome. Well, and I could imagine you've probably forgot about more deals that you've done than the rest of us in this room combined have done. So you deserve that honor.
Darn near all of them, Joe.
Oh,
I forgot almost all of them. It gets worse every year.
Even better, right? So obviously, from doing a lot of those deals, that you probably have some mistakes that definitely stuck out in your head that you've learned from. Are there a few that you would share with this?
Never made a single mistake, Joe.
You got lucky then, right?
Well, at least not since this morning that I know of.
Well, I know one of the
book. That's my new book, all the lessons learned. See how thin it is? It could be this thick with mistakes and stupid stuff that I try to keep other people from doing.
Well,
sorry to interrupt.
That's really important. One of our favorite phrases that we've heard you say is, do you want to repeat it, Joe?
Don't be a moron, get more Ron. Okay. And that's always been one of our favorites. And I probably butchered it a little bit, but the whole point of it is like, get some education. And that's really the key, because I know before Ron, I made probably still do make a lot of moronic mistakes, but I make less of them now because I listen to him. So
yeah, I keep wondering, when do they stop? I think the answer is death, if I'm not sure. Hey, do you know who that guy is right beside you there? Do you know Kyle?
Sure do. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
We interviewed Kyle. What it was about 5-6 weeks ago. We were lucky enough to have him on and talk about Park Daddy and all the awesome things he's doing. Yeah, it was a great time.
He's had his ups and downs too, like we all have. He's in my commercial mastermind group.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it is this business. There's constantly ebbs and flows, just like any other business that you're going to do. And it's just weathering the tough times, and it brings along much better times if you just stick to the course and also be
Well,
flexible.
Speaking of the tough times, you know, I try to caution everybody about the future that no one knows for sure is what it's going to be like, and to make sure you're setting yourself up to where you can't lose your assets while we're waiting to see, because it's not fun to build an empire and then have to start all over because you didn't build it with a solid foundation, and it started crashing and burning. In fact, Kyle can comment to that when you get a chance to interview him, but he bounced back quickly. I've had several of those times in my life, and we bounce back quickly. We don't use it for an excuse, but we learn a lot from it. I'll tell you that, mostly what not to do. So for all of you, you got to get out of personally guaranteed debt. I'm telling you, building an empire on personally guaranteed debt is dangerous. Building it on a house of cards, it could come crashing down on you at any time. And if you don't think so, ask anybody that came through 2008 that had property and watched it go down in value almost overnight. It took about 8-9 years to get that value back. And now here we are starting to slide again. So who knows? I always get that question, are we going to have another recession? My answer is yes, of course. But I just don't know what year it's going to happen. We always have recessions. We've always had them and we always will have them. All they are is corrections. But here's the good thing about recessions is that they create more motivated sellers, and they make it harder for buyers to buy at the bank. So frankly, we should all pray for another recession if we're real estate investors, because that's when we come in and clean up the chaos, help people out of the houses. And I lease option to tenant buyers, and they have plenty of time to fix what's broke before they go to the bank and get a loan, and plenty of time to even wait out the interest rates, because I'm sure they're going to come back down. I don't know when or don't know how much, but start looking at your empire and say, what's at risk here? And do that without making the assumption that nothing's ever going to happen to you. Because when you start making that assumption, you'll be next. Build it so they can't get it. And the smartest thing for you to do is not try to hide stuff. You can't hide anything out there today. In fact, you could get yourself in trouble trying to hide it and then lie that you don't have it. Just build your empire so that if they come, they're not going to get any of it. And you know, that's a pretty good part of what I try to train people on. As Kyle will tell you up there, anytime I do an event, it's a chunk of it. We got to assume that things aren't going to work out lovely like we plan.
Guys, that right there was just complete gold. That was awesome.
Personally guaranteed debt is the biggest mistake we can make in the real estate business. Get all the houses we want without personally guaranteed debt. Take them subject to, buy them on a wrap. And then that debt never shows on the credit report, never shows on your financial statement. And you can do all of them you want, and the bank's never going to cut you off. Some people think when you go down to the bank and get a loan and get approved, that increases your financeability. Frankly, just the opposite is true. It decreases it, because the more debt you get into, the less bankable you are. So learn how to buy properties without using your money or credit. And nobody will ever come after an asset you have if it's not in your name, if a judgment comes against you for some reason. So anyway, I'm on a diatribe here. Ask me an easy question, Joe.
I mean, that you just answered like the best of all that my last question, right? And this is the whole point of it is, guys, when you're buying real estate, and this is where Ron always talked about, and I learned this at a very early point, is protecting your empire. It's not just about building it, but it's also about protecting it. And as big as you build something, you know, you must put a target on your back. So you want to do it the right way. So like what Ron said, if somebody comes, they're not going to get much. And, you know, I'm sure throughout your years of experience, you probably witnessed that too. And you've seen probably a lot of others.
I can't tell you how many people come up to me practically with tears in their eyes, and it was too late. They already got a judgment against them. They probably heard my talk on it 1 or 2 years earlier, but decided to go home and do nothing about it because it can't possibly happen to me. And, you know, kind of brings tears to my eyes when I hear those stories, because they've all could have been fixed very, very easily by learning about the asset protection and the entity structuring. And then you'll know why you're creating entities and what you can do and what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, man, you know, I'm getting a little disturbed here. don't want to talk about all this bad stuff. Ask me a positive question, Joe.
Well, then I'm going to bring up a favorite Ron story. We were out to the family mastermind. This was a few months ago, and you came down to Tampa, and one night there was a dinner sign up going to different restaurants, and Jen saw your name and Debbie's name and Nick's name going to dinner. I don't even remember what restaurant. She's like, "Oh, we're going to dinner with Ron," and she put her name underneath. And then as we're sitting there, you're sitting next to Jen, and you pull out your cell phone, and go ahead, Jen.
Well, I believe that you had received a property information sheet with a lead. And I just was wondering, you probably don't remember that exactly, but even in today, you're still doing deals. So could you maybe share a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Sure. Some people think I'm too old to do deals. Some people think I'm a dinosaur. They're right on one of those. And some people think I'm dead. But, I don't make a big deal out of it. I'm doing deals. I got a full-time acquisitionist, and we've done, 10 or 12 deals this year. And I'm going to continue doing them. I'm not going to stop doing them. I'm going to continue dancing with the one who brung me. And that makes me aware of all the changes, the laws, and the things that are happening in the industry. I have to keep abreast of that. So, yeah, I actually made 2 offers this morning on these were MLS properties, which I'm trying to get back into. For years, I stayed out of as a waste of energy. The greater fools out there buy these properties, pay way too much. And that's still true. But every once in a while, one creeps through. So every day I have my realtor send me all of the properties that meet my criteria that came on the market that day. And I get probably 10 a week, easy. And enough information to determine whether I want to move forward with it or not. In my case, I send this over to my acquisitionist and I say, get me R. And then if we like it, go see it and we'll make an offer on it. So that's my job. I'm telling you, it's hard work sitting here making decisions.
Yeah, it sounds like you're working a lot. Are you doing that in your iPad in bed, or are you getting out of bed to do that?
Yeah, my iPad and my phone. And we popped a couple of wholesale deals this year, made over 40 grand each on them. Never touched them.
Wow. So how many hours doing all these deals are you still putting into your business in a week?
Me?
Yeah.
That's all I do. Forward those leads. Don't even take an hour.
Right. So
and he's responsible for everything else. He goes to the houses, he makes the appointments. He has to find the buyers. So far, we've found the buyers for him as fast as we can get them. That's the market we're in now for wholesale deals.
Yeah, and you're always the king of automation and have other people help you.
Just got one. Well, and my personal assistant, Tish, she's been with me for 20 years. She does the administrative work, but he does the hard work of any hard work, but he's the one that does all the work a real estate investor thinks they got to do.
All right. So the name of the game that I've always loved about Ron is even though we're at dinner, he's still excited about a seller lead and making an appointment to this day, because it's a lifelong journey and you never really stop doing it. You might slow down it sometimes and pick it back up other times. And that's just how organically it happens in your life.
I just do it because I still want to do it, and I don't need the money, but I still need to stay in the game. And I'm nowhere near as aggressive as I used to be. Hell, there were years where I was doing 100, 150 deals myself. And you and I hang around a group that some of them do over 250 wholesale deals, which requires an organization and multiple different cities, actually. But I can see how they do it. They make offers on properties that are listed online, get a contract, put it right back online. Most of the time, they never even see the house. I've had numerous people call from out of state and wants to buy a house we have on the market. They've never seen it, but they want to buy it. And truthfully, I've got to the point where I won't even, if they're out of state, I ask them, or I don't ask them, but my assistant says, have you seen the house yet? And if they say no, we tell them, well, go look at the house, call me back. Because had too many people put houses under contract, then they go look at them and they don't want them.
Right. So I got to ask a question. This is going to probably be an easy one for you, but we receive this question really often. and this is going by your teaching, how would you scale your real estate portfolio quickly today?
Well, you're going to need a village. You got to have help. And of course, the most important person in that village is that acquisitionist. And if you're going to do some serious scaling, you're probably going to need more than one. But that also means you're going to have to crank up your lead machine, bringing in enough leads to support them, or they're not going to be around long. It's your responsibility to generate the leads. And the more you focus on generating quality leads, the easier it is for them to get deals. And quality leads mean you're probably going to have to pay for them from other outsourced companies that will get them for you and do a lot of the pre-screening. So now when you get the lead, they're practically ready to do business with you. Get anywhere from 1 out of 7 to 1 out of 10 of those turn into a deal. Downside is those leads cost you anywhere from $100, $250 or so. But so what? If my net profit's $20,000 and I have to call 10 qualified leads and I spend $1,500 on it, seems to me like that's a pretty fair exchange, don't you think? And that's another mistake a lot of investors make. They will not invest in their marketing because they are not sure that they're going to get leads. Well, you're never going to get them if you don't invest some money into getting them. And think about how easy your life is when all you got to do is get lead, pay for the lead, instead of doing all the stuff that goes along with lead generation, because we could really get sucked up in that in a hurry. There's so many ways to get leads. You can't focus on any one thing. And I got a list of them that long, but we can't do everything. So to start up, we got to find out which leads are working for us best and ramp that up, get more of those and do away with the ones that are kind of a waste of money. And that's going to take a while. That's going to take a good 6 months to figure that out, and maybe longer. But once you got it figured out, now your business, you know your numbers. I know how much money I got to spend to get how many leads. I know how many leads I need to get a deal out of it. So I just ramp that up, and always looking for another way that works well. But we got to get our control in place first, and then we can worry about beating that control. There are plenty of companies that'll generate leads for you as long as you're willing to pay for them. That's how you ramp up. You're not going to ramp up if you don't ramp up your leads.
And what Ron has always said since day one, if you don't have leads coming in, you don't have a business.
That's right.
So the first thing that we always talk about in any business is how do you get incoming leads? How are you going to get in front of qualified people? And that's the name of the game of any business, rather, it doesn't matter what you do.
But there got to be quality, Joe. There's leads and then there's quality leads.
Yep.
People who advertise their house for sale online are quantity leads. They're not quality leads. Plenty of deals, but you got to work a lot harder to get them. We're averaging something like 30 or 40 calls before we can get one deal. But on the other hand, what if it takes 40 calls and your upfront profit is $40,000? Sounds to me like you got paid $1,000 every time you got a no, doesn't it?
Not that terrible. Not that terrible. That's going through like Zillow and MLS. They're out there, but you got to, just like anything else, you got to look for them.
Yeah. Well, when they're listing their house online, they're less motivated, and it's harder to get people to talk terms. More motivated they are, the easier it is. For example, people in foreclosure, they're mentally pretty much out anyway. We're getting some good leads out from probate, dealing with the children that inherited the house. And we're only doing about 6 or 7 things. I know I'm working in the MLS. Whatever that means. I look at it and forward it or don't forward it. We got several things going on. I can't even remember. I know we're doing some direct mail to, let's see, who are we mailing to? A couple, 3 sources. And now I also know we're mailing to people that have been filed foreclosure on. We got 6 letters that we send to them sequentially. And we're getting a few deals out of that. Plus, we buy at the courthouse steps. We're here, there's 2, 3, 4 houses every week that are for sale at the courthouse steps. The downside of that is these are foreclosures. And downside is, of course, you got to have the money there by 4 o'clock that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that ain't a problem. The problem is sorting through the ones that actually make it to the sale, because a lot of them get bailed out at the last minute. And same thing with tax deed sales. Down here, we have them every month, but there's an awful lot of work somebody's got to put into them, because there's no way I'm going to go bid on a house that I or somebody I trust hasn't seen. I learned that lesson the hard hard way when I bid on one time and went out and found out I had a nice piece of land, but there used to be a house on it. And you don't take it back. So you bid on it, you own it. And if you back out, you're never going to bid there again because they're going to blackball you. So
Wow.
anyway, these are long answers to short questions, aren't they?
Well, no, that they're the right answers and they're very thorough. So I got an easy one for you. It's kind of a trick question because I know what some of you are thinking. Well, this must only happen where Ron is in other parts of the country, but doesn't work where I live. So Ron, can you tell us where this works and then tell us where this doesn't work? Because there's got to be a spot, right? Somewhere where this doesn't work.
Well, it don't work in Jacksonville, Florida. I can tell you that. So don't even bother trying to come by here. And wherever you live, it won't work there either. As long as you say it won't work there. Okay.
Yeah, right.
There is not a city in the United States that don't have people that want to sell houses. And the same city has people who want to buy houses. Always been that way, always will be that way, regardless of what happens going forward. And in fact, I was buying houses like crazy in the mid 80s when the prime rate was 16.8%. Just if you can just imagine that. And you know, some people think we're never going to get there again. Well, I didn't ever think we was going to get down to where we were here a couple of years ago again either. So it doesn't really matter what we think. We need to be able to work in the market and change with the market. For example, we had this hot market on pretty houses here the last couple of years. You know, we had to change where we're going to get leads from. We have to dig deeper to get leads from more motivated folks, like people in foreclosure, and I don't know, you know the list. So we have to change the rules to comply. Now I think we're coming right out of it slowly. Don't think we're going back to 2008 because we got too many houses that need somebody to live in them. We got a shortage of houses. I'm sorry, we got a shortage of houses. We need more houses. And that's kind of holding us up right now, I think. We're like a 4 million house shortage. So as long as that's the case, I don't think the house market is going to go drop like a bucket, but it's definitely going down. It's going down right now already. In fact, I just read an article this morning. Some area, I forgot where it was, it's already dropped 40%. Now that's not normal. Some areas haven't dropped any because it depends on the supply and the demand in those areas. We're dropping here in Jacksonville, but it ain't huge like it was after September of 08. Did that answer your question? Because I totally forgot what it was.
No, you hit it right in the head. And it's interesting because we were just in upstate New York, and properties in upstate New York, because there's such a shortage, they're still getting over asking. Where in Tampa, where we are right now, they're starting to, get more on the market. And so we had a great question. Thomasina brings up, what is the best platform or system to stay informed on changes in the real estate industry, such as like laws or policies or restrictions? Is there anything that you like to follow or keep an eye on that helps for that?
I can't say there's anybody I like to follow on that because frankly, I don't even believe half of what I hear anyway. I've learned the whole world is full of crap, and I'm not going to get my information from talking heads on television. I do read the papers and, I do watch the news, Fox News, I might add. And that's where I get my keeping up with the marketplace. But when you're buying and selling houses, you learn a lot of things you're not going to get off of the news. And like the changes that we're making now, I see the market sliding. You can prepare for that. What's the worst case? You're prepared for a hurricane that never shows up. And maybe you learn how to protect yourself along the way. So again, that's a market change. Market changes when they started rising rapidly. What a great time to sell houses, for crying out loud, which I did. I sold several. I got houses right now that have doubled in value since this crap started when the COVID came in. Doubled in value. A lot faster appreciation than I've ever seen in my life, and probably never will see it again. So we can't change what's happening out there. We just adapt to it. And I tell you, I'll say it again. The best way to prepare yourself is to not guarantee debt and stop doing it. Quit doing it. You might want to think about this is probably a really good time to sell a house with guaranteed debt on it. Get rid of the debt, get it off your credit board, put the cash in the bank, and be very careful to what you spend with it. I don't write checks. I mean, I do write checks, big checks, but when I write them, I want a big check back quicker, much more than what I wrote. And I'm not going to bury money in real estate. In other words, I'm not going to put up a down payment and go down and get a bank and just for the privilege of having a tenant in it. I'm going to buy them without using banks, without using credit, period, and using very little money. And then I own them and nothing's on my credit report. I get humongous cash flow. I get 3 to 5% of the sales price every time I put a tenant in the house in cash, called a non-refundable option deposit. And part of their deal is they got to pick up all the repairs on the house. That's a totally different business than the rental business. I've been on the other side where you're babysitter for all the people, that can't even raise the money to pay their rent. So they go on HUD. I had 200 HUD tenants at one time, Joe. Can you imagine that?
The
Make you
calls,
cold very quick.
the calls that you must get. And that's our crazy summer of 2017 when we changed our properties from rentals to every one of them we changed to a lease purchase and did your model.
Really?
The crazy
Yeah.
summer of 17, and that's when
Wow.
everything changed. I gotta say.
I didn't think you were that smart, man. I didn't think you'd do anything I told you to do. Most men don't.
Yeah,
Huh.
but
was me.
I got a secret
Sorry-
weapon.
sorry, Jen.
I got Jen on my side, so she straightened me up. And
Okay. All right. Well, we know who the brains of the outfit is. That's for sure.
and the looks. She's got them both. But you know what? The thing is, I'm still here for a good attitude. But that's the point of it. Once we change that aspect of our business, one of the questions we have is about scaling. It's also about not being a babysitter for all the tenants, right?
Yeah.
And how can you actually help people too if they do make it through and they do buy the house? We just had one happen, so that's exciting too. And you do get a big old check.
Yeah. Everyone wants to creep now and then wants to creep through. But is your business a whole lot easier now than it was when you were the daddy?
Oh, so much different. And I'm not gonna lie, this is something you probably don't know. There's many things you don't know, but there was a few years like from 2008, 9, 10, 11, when we were finding houses in upstate New York for like $30,000 to $40,000, and we were burning them. And I was personally guaranteeing the debt, had it through my company, but I was signing my name. And every time I did that, Jen and I would be like, oh, Ron would kill me if I knew I did this right now. And that's what helped us get back into Ron's world. It was in 2016 where my friend at the bank says, Joe, after 10 mortgages, the bank's going to cut you off. So you need to figure, what to do next. And there's Ron once again on YouTube. Way back then, still sharing before there was any of these other guys doing it. He was the one educating on the topic. And when we fall back into that lap and we got Tony Pearl was who we worked with in your office. And he was huge. He was so big on you guys and your whole team, your VA department, the Gold Club, helped put so many of these missing pieces together that helped us get our very first creative deal within like a little over a month of being wrapped in your world. So I'm a true believer on it. And we're still a member of the Gold Club for like the last 6 years or 7 years. So we still find tons of value in there. There's so much great stuff. So I know you don't have a lot of
Joe,
time today.
that makes you a weird man, because most men are not going to follow instructions. And frankly, if it's working perfectly, it has to be fixed. Right, guys? I know I'm one of them. So, in fact, the same thing is true for the guy sitting right beside you there. Guaranteed a bunch of debt didn't work out. So next, that's called training.
And I got to say, everything from listening to how you do your business, I try to just mirror what you do. And even to the point of moving to Florida, we were in upstate New York all of these years. And
Right,
you would and you'd say in upstate New York and all these other places, you don't have to be freezing up there in the snow. And I would be freezing my tail off thinking about this guy down in Florida. He's all nice and warm and I'm freezing. And then Jen also made that happen too. So once again, it's from her listening to you. So thank you for all the tips.
You don't want to be down here today. I can tell you that. It's going to hit 100 out there today.
It was 98 down here.
Really hot. Unusually hot.
Yeah. We keep on having that.
You are down here, aren't you?
Yeah, we're in Tampa. So the heat advisor, it's 98 degrees and we were outside doing some video stuff this morning. So you better be in quick. It gets warm. So awesome.
Right.
Awesome. Well, once again, guys, thank you for tuning in. I know Ron's got some things he's got going today. What do you got going on right now, Ron? What are you up to?
I've been sitting here doing some filming all day long for the marketing team. Short forms, long forms, lesson plans. I've been here since 9:30 this morning being tortured by these people here.
Tortured. I've been in your office. You guys have a great time there. And I gotta say, guys, doesn't matter how old we are, nobody still works harder than this guy in this business, putting and giving out, sharing tons of value, does a ton of this stuff too. So obviously, Ron, if they don't know how to find you, where do they find you? Where's the best way to find Ron LeGrand?
Turn on your computer. And I might be there. Best way is probably my 90-minute webinar on terms. And that's ronlegrand.com/terms. Spell the name right. It's LEGRAND. And it's R at Ron. Well, you can go to ronlegrand.com. You'll find so much stuff there. You can get my books there. You can get some free training there. You can get my latest one, Lessons Learned, there, or Amazon. So you ain't gonna have trouble finding me.
Well, Ron, the best of the best. It is a complete honor to have you on here. And I was so happy. Thank you, Debbie, for helping get this done. You're the best. If you're listening and you could hear this.
Looking right at her.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
Thank her again for me. She is a rock star. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys next month at the mastermind. So super excited for that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Jen.
Thanks for
Thank
tuning in,
you,
guys.
Ron. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good week, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.